Welcome to RuralStrong, where we talk real challenges and bold solutions in rural economic development. I'm your host, Joe Barker. Let's get into it. This is Joe Barker, and this is RuralStrong, a podcast sponsored by the Southwest Tennessee Development District in Jackson, Tennessee. And we're pleased today to be at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we're going to have the opportunity to speak with several local elected officials. We're going to speak with some of the speakers who are facilitating the breakout sessions. But our first guest today is the Executive Director of the Tennessee Municipal League, Mr. Anthony Haynes. And Anthony, welcome to RuralStrong.
Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you for being here covering our conference.
Well, I know you're excited. You've got a big day coming up, lots of things. Actually, you've been going for a couple of days now, but
That's right.
Tell our listeners a little bit about exactly what the Tennessee Municipal League is.
The Tennessee Municipal League is an association, if you will, of municipal governments and their officials that not only serve as the voice of those elected officials, towns and cities across the state, in Nashville, working with the legislature, working with the governor, working with different agencies in state government, but it is also a place where they all come and not only network, but exchange ideas, success stories, talk about their challenges, receive educational programming, and then also work with people in the private sector that might have solutions with some of their issues that they're facing at home. So it is probably the best one-stop shop mother church, if you will, for local municipal governments.
Well, and it brings metropolitan cities.
Oh, it really does.
And the most rural city. How many cities are in Tennessee?
There are 345 cities in the state. It will not surprise you because you are one of the state's rural experts, but 70% of the towns and cities in the state of Tennessee are 5,000 or fewer people. As much as we have grown, as you well know, we'll approach 8 million people by the end of the decade, we are still a rural state. And those issues still matter. And I want to take this opportunity, Joe, to thank you and your vision for this podcast because, as you well know, rural America can never have too many voices.
Well, it's the backbone of America, and as you said, it's the backbone of Tennessee. And the Municipal League is one of those organizations that provides an array of services. And I love when you're able to bring local elected officials together to network. I always thought, Anthony, the breakout sessions are good, but it's being able to network with your fellow local elected officials that is so valuable.
Absolutely. That is one of the things that we continue to hear from people that they want from us. The opportunities that facilitate that, first and foremost, they want us to be their advocate in Nashville when they can't be there and those, the complex issues that we have to deal with. But they love coming to these conferences. They love the breakout sessions. They've even requested more time for that sort of thing, to network and meet people. West Tennessee want to talk to people in East Tennessee because at the end of the day, we're all Tennesseans. We all face the same challenges. It's just in maybe a different way it's packaged in our part of the state.
All right, we're leading up to having our guest today, and we've started it off with the Executive Director of the Tennessee Municipal League, Anthony Haynes, and I look to visiting with some of your mayors about their challenges, about their opportunities, and their successes. So best of luck to you in the conference, and thank you for allowing us to be here.
Oh, thank you, Joe. We appreciate you being here. Come back anytime.
Thank you, my friend. This is Joe Barker, and this is RuralStrong, and we are coming to you today from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we've had several outstanding guests that we've been able to talk to, and we've got another one for this podcast edition. We have Todd Smith, who is the city manager of Greeneville, Tennessee, which is in East Tennessee. And Todd, welcome to RuralStrong.
Oh, it's very good to be here in wonderful Chattanooga downtown, a great place, and at the Tennessee Municipal League Annual Conference.
All right. Tell our listeners about Greeneville. Give us your elevator speech.
Yeah, Greeneville is the second oldest town in Tennessee, named after Revolutionary War General Nathaniel Greene. A lot of Revolutionary War veterans crossed the mountains after the war and settled in this beautiful part of northeast Tennessee and named it after their fearless leader, Nathaniel Greene. And it's a historic town. We have a beautiful downtown. We were one of those communities in the 60s and 70s. We didn't do the urban renewal. We kept the old bones of our downtown core. And so today there's old brick buildings from the early 1900s. We just completed a renewal project downtown that was opened about a year and a half ago. And we're starting to see the fruits of our labor with business activity and residential downtown. So that's Greeneville in a nutshell. It's a small community, about 17,000 citizens. We're growing very fast like much of Tennessee. And we're just trying to keep up with the growth like many Tennesseans are today.
Tell our folks, Todd, about where Greeneville is located geographically and maybe what is the nearest metropolitan area to you?
Yeah, Greeneville is almost halfway between Knoxville and Bristol. And if you take that kind of northeast corridor there in the northeastern part of the state. So we are kind of right outside the metropolitan area of the Tri-Cities, Johnson City, Kingsport, and Bristol. And probably the closest city is Johnson City to us. But we're also close to Morristown as well. Geographically, Greeneville is a great location because we're about an hour from Asheville, North Carolina, a little over an hour from Knoxville, and then 45 minutes or so from any number of the Tri-Cities areas. So geographically, you're in a short drive from a lot of activity in northeast Tennessee and in North Carolina.
And you are the city manager, and you have been since 2011, is that correct?
Correct.
And tell our listeners about a city manager form of government. They may be more familiar with a mayor and council, but city manager form of governments in Tennessee are very prevalent.
Yes. I love talking about the city manager form of government. For one, it brings me to the kind of the history of the profession. And we have a leadership course that comes through our town hall, and I always talk about kind of the birth of city manager form of government. And really it came out of the late 1800s in the federal government. They were going through a civil service reform process where to take the politics out of the labor force that made up a government. And so on the federal level, they went through the civil service reform to get professional employees there. And bigger cities were having the same thought. You look at cities like Philadelphia and New York, Boston had those strong mayor forms of government. But back in that day, when the mayor got elected, you changed the police force, you changed the fire force, you changed all of the employees to kind of pay off your friends that helped get you elected. And there was a movement in the late 1800s, early 1900s to create a professional form of government. And Stanton, Virginia was the first to hire a professional city manager. I think it was in 1907. And so the city manager form of government is to bring that level of professionalism on a day-to-day administrative type level. So that the manager is the one who's hiring employees and disciplining employees. They're taking the decisions of the policymakers and they're executing that decision. They're making sure the policy and the will of the elected body is executed in a professional manner. So it is a level of professionalism. It's a level that hopefully takes some of the politics out of the day-to-day decisions and delivers these public services to our citizens in the most efficient form that we can do.
And you can actually get a degree in city administration, isn't that correct?
You can, and I got my degree, my master's degree in public administration from East Tennessee State University. And so there are degree programs for this profession. Interestingly, I thought my way, I love local government, always knew I wanted to be in local government. I thought my way was law school. I thought law school was my ticket to get to local government. And then when the University of Tennessee rejected my law school application, I did Plan B, which Plan B was to go to ETSU to get this public administration degree. And about a semester into it, I realized this is where I needed to be all along. This was the great program and the right match for getting into local government.
Well, I've been a former city mayor and county mayor, and it was evident that you didn't have to have any qualifications to get elected. For me to get elected, you just had to get more votes than anyone else. And I do. I love a city administrator, city manager form of government because it brings that professionalism in. And it's still, the political part of it is for the elected people.
Right. And I think that's still important to realize that there are still policies to be made, politics that have to be played out, but that's the role of the elected officials to determine those policies and to set that broad overview picture for the town, and then you let the staff go execute the will of the policymakers.
One thing I want to talk about in particular today is a real disaster that your community faced a few years ago with Hurricane Helene, which a lot of areas in North Carolina and Tennessee and other parts of the country were affected. And tell us about when that happened and sort of how your community responded to that.
Yeah, September 27th, 2024 was an event in Greeneville's history that I think will be, people will talk about, was that before the flood or after the flood? And when it hit, it of course caught us all by surprise. We knew rains were coming. We knew the remnants of the hurricane were here. We've seen that quite a bit, and so we're used to the levels of rain from hurricanes. This was just different because of the force of the hurricane was still very strong as it went over the mountains. It did not dissipate. So that evening, as the floodwaters rose, we quickly realized this is an event that we have to take seriously. And our Emergency Operations Center was opened on the 27th in the morning. Early that day, it was opened and staffed by city and county folks. And when the events happened that night and bridges were falling and collapsing and roads were being washed out, everyone knew that we had to be in this together. And city and county no longer mattered. And your municipality and the patch you wore, it just didn't matter at that point because our citizens' lives and property was at risk. And that's what I love talking about. Our response is that organizations that would normally maybe have some contested conversations about funding and the normal kind of the normal kind of competition you have for dollars and resources, that all went away. We were all one team. The county mayor, city manager, all working together. Sheriff's department, police department was working together. We were singly focused on a mission, and that was saving lives and protecting property. So it's amazing that this disaster came up, but the silver lining was how we just pulled together. As a community, we realized we have got to work together for responding to this.
And Todd, have you found that since that incident, you have a stronger community than before?
Absolutely. And what we learned is not just on the government level, on the church level, the nonprofit level, and just citizens who just showed up and said, how can we help? And it was amazing to see the response. We had a water crisis. Our water intake facility for the whole county was destroyed by this flood. So we had no access to public utility water. And that was on Saturday morning, the 28th, we realized we had a water crisis. By Sunday morning, we had a truckload of water bottles delivered. By Tuesday, we had so much water coming in, we had to turn trucks away. And that's just an indicative story of people, when they saw a need, businesses, nonprofits, churches, they stepped up and said, we're going to provide that need. We're going to fill the gap. And that story about water happened on food, clothing, medical supplies. These just came in from all sorts of areas that people said, we're going to help. We're going to roll up our sleeves, and we're going to help. And we didn't wait for FEMA to come in. We didn't say, what do we do now, and throw up our hands. It's a testament to our community that our local leadership said, we're going to fix this, and we're going to help each other.
And when you have a crisis such as this, party affiliation goes out the window. And I think that's what's heartening about being an American. I mean, we may debate and we may argue, but really we come together in times of crisis.
We do. We absolutely do. And we spent 2 weeks at operating the Emergency Operations Center, and every day we knew we had a mission that day. And again, the uniform you wore or the level of government you worked for, it didn't matter. Now, after that ends, you go back to the normal, bickering for resources and money. But when the chips are down, we do come together, and we know that core mission of, especially at the local government level, you're there to protect lives. And when that is threatened, you come together and work together.
And when you get down to the basics, it comes back to leadership. And I know leadership is a passion of yours. It's something that's a passion of mine, because I see communities that succeed or fail based on the leadership they have. So give me some of your thoughts about leadership during that time and just leadership in general.
Yeah, it was an amazing display of what I call local leadership that we saw in Greeneville and Greene County. And I position that as opposed to global leadership. Today we hear and we talk about global this, global that, global leadership. You feel like you have to have 50 million Facebook followers to have any influence, or you feel like you have to have an Ivy League degree to exert global influence, or you have to have the right name or be a celebrity to affect global situation. But in reality, we as average people have the ability to affect our community and our neighborhood on a day-to-day basis. And that's what I learned from Hurricane Helene, is that very normal people, average people with normal bank accounts, and they do not wear capes. They're not superheroes, but they showed up. And just that's what it takes is just showing up at times and caring enough that I'm going to make a difference in my community. And we talked about virtues of leadership. There are virtues of leadership, and Webster's describes virtue as something of a higher calling. And we had people who worked for local government and people who were just neighbors that said, I've got a higher calling now to serve my fellow human being, and I'm going to show up. And it's amazing that we had volunteers who aren't first responders, they're not rescuers, but they showed up at the EOC, said, what can we do? And one of the thoughts in one of these ladies' heads was, well, we need to feed these people. People at the EOC need to eat. We can cater food, and we can call restaurants. And so simple things that don't require training to rescue somebody in swift water, but they matter. And when you can feed first responders, they have to be fed to go do their job. And so that's the kind of stories we saw in Greeneville, is that people were just showing up and doing the small things. And that's, I think, one of these virtues of leadership, is doing the small things so that the bigger things can get done. And then when you do the small things and you build upon them, then all of a sudden you've got big success at that point. So I think leadership is the first part of leadership is caring enough to show up.
Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We see these stories all the time, all across the country. During your tenure as city manager, what would you say, maybe if you had to pick one thing that you might say would be the city of Greeneville's biggest success, aside from the hurricane and everyone coming together, what would that be?
I think our biggest success and why we are who we are is there's a culture in Greeneville of loving and caring each other. It was shown through the hurricane. We're seeing a lot of growth from folks who are from California and Texas and New Jersey, New York. The first thing I like asking people, how'd you find Greeneville? And usually they were looking for something else, but they stumbled upon Greeneville, and their answer is, it's the people. It's the people that makes Greeneville unique. It's people who have been in Appalachia for generations. They're people of faith. They're hardworking people. and they're people that love each other and take care of each other. And so I think that's what it sounds like a tagline, but I truly believe Greeneville is unique because of our people who make this community a strong community.
And I can tell by talking with you, it's the passion people have for the community and the area. Okay, in just a couple of minutes we've got left, if somebody listening out there wanted to get some more information about Greeneville or the area, where should they go?
Yeah, our website is greenevilletn.gov. And I always have to put the caveat, Greeneville, it has this extra E at the end. So that's GREENEVILLETN.gov. Just a little adage to that. There's, I think, 50 Greenevilles throughout the United States. We're the only one that has the extra E at the end. So Greeneville with the extra
Unique.
E. We are unique. We are Greeneville with the extra E. So, yeah, get on our website. Come visit our website. It's got our contact information. It's got my contact information. I'd love to hear questions. If somebody is interested in finding out more about Greeneville, we'd certainly like to talk to them.
Well, Todd, I want to, when we've got more time away from a conference where we can get in depth a little bit more, I'd love to have you back. Let's talk about, again, your thoughts on leadership, the way everything come together after Hurricane Helene. You've been an excellent guest. We appreciate you being on Rural Strong.
Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome to Rural Strong. This is Joe Barker, and we're speaking to you today from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we've just been delighted that we've had local elected officials. We've had some of their speakers from their breakout sessions today. But we've really been waiting on this particular duo today. We have Mayor Kathy Ray and City Manager Kim Foster from beautiful Paris, Tennessee. Welcome to Rural Strong.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
We're
so much.
excited to be here.
In fact, Mayor Ray is historic. I have been told that you are the first woman mayor in Paris in its 200-year history.
You have done your research. You are correct.
Well, congratulations,
Thank
Mayor.
you so much.
And
I'm
I want to
very
tell
proud.
you, as a fellow West Tennessean, I'm envious of Paris, Tennessee. Y'all have done a tremendous job there, and that's what we want to talk about today. I guess we want to talk a little bit about the challenges that rural communities have, but evidently y'all found the secret to unlock the talent you have. So I'll just start with Kim.
Okay.
Kim, first of all, tell the folks about yourself, how long you've been the city administrator there.
Okay. I have been with the City of Paris since 2011. I started as the finance director. I served in that role for 4 years, and then I was fortunate enough to be chosen as the city manager when Carl Holder retired in 2015. So this year marks my 10-year anniversary as the city manager of Paris, and I feel incredibly blessed to be part of the exciting things going on right now. I think we've done a lot of things over the last 10 years to get us where we are today, but being part of this wave of activity has been a lot of fun.
And Mayor Ray, from your standpoint, what do you think is one of the keys to success of actually being successful in a rural community? You're not exactly on the interstate highway.
We're not, but we have a team of people who are passionate. And when you have folks passionate about what they're doing, we work hard. And we attract people that we want to attract. And we just have a great team that works together. And I think working together for the same thing is the common thread.
You know, I'm a huge proponent of building on your assets. And when you look at Paris, and for our listeners that don't know, it's located in Henry County. Tell our listeners about some of your assets that y'all been able to build on there.
Well, obviously the biggest asset that we have is a natural asset, and that's Kentucky Lake. Now, Paris is not right on the lake, but we get so much benefit from being in that recreational sweet spot where we have lots and lots of people that actually own homes on the lake in Henry County and the surrounding counties, from the Nashville area, from the Jackson area, even from the Memphis area. So we're very fortunate to get to capitalize on that. And then I'm going to turn it over to Miss Downtown Paris and let her tell you about the jewel that we have in our downtown.
Great.
Well, in 2013, we started a revitalization of our downtown. And with that came ideas and things to do differently. And we started attracting different type of stores that you don't see everywhere, unique gift shops and boutiques. And we went from that to what would bring people in just to look around, and we turned to art. So we have a downtown filled with 30 murals. Almost every mural is historic, all but two, in that they tell a story about the history of a town that's been there since 1823.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Where did that vision come from?
Well, that vision came from the city manager, Carl Holder, who decided the alleys needed refurbishing. There were wires. It was ugly. It was dirty. And these were working alleys. So we're going to clean that up, and we're going to put all of the wiring underground, and we'll use pavers. Well, it just looked so pretty. And it looked historic because the pavers looked like brick, like it was in the 1800s. And that led to, well, let's paint things. What can we paint? Well, the first alley we did was a historic brick on the wall, which was, those buildings were built in 1899. Can't paint historic brick, but the windows had been bricked in with new brick. So we got around that rule and we created windows of the West Alley. And each window is a historical event. And so the whole idea started with the the refurbishing of the current of the alleys and the way they looked. So that led to artwork.
And the neat thing about refurbishing the alleys was we were able to include stormwater features, underground drainage and things that helped with the infrastructure in the city. We put conduit underground so that when cables and electrical wires and things need to be changed out. And one of the reasons for the pavers actually came from our our building inspector at the time, Mike Brown, who said, I've seen this in other places, and then when you have to get into the alley to work on the water, the sewer, the gas, whatever, you don't have to cut up the concrete now. You just pull the pavers out, move the gravel out of the way, do your repairs, and then put it all back, and it's just like new. And we've had to do that several times. We also really worked hard and coordinated all the utilities and the cable companies so that we said, okay, our alleys are going to be opened up. What do you want to do in there while we have all this torn out? And it was a huge collaborative effort, but it turned out very successfully. We're very proud of that.
And we're talking today with Mayor Kathy Ray and City Manager Kim Foster from Paris, Tennessee. And if you hear some noise in the background, we're broadcasting this podcast from the exhibit hall at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in Chattanooga. Okay, there was this vision, and did the retail that has happened in downtown Paris, was it a result of doing these things publicly first, or how did all that work together? Because folks, if you haven't been to downtown Paris, you're missing a treat to see what a rural community can really do. So how did all that evolve?
Well, I think creating the atmosphere of our downtown and playing on the historic features of our downtown made the merchants want to be on the square.
And one of the big things was we've been through 2 rounds of the Downtown Improvement Grant now. The first round was the facade grant, and we went through that, and then that was very successful, and it came around again, and we thought, well, we wonder if we have enough building owners and business owners that would want to do it again, and we had 50 more applications. Yes. So once people started making improvements, it was just like you'd lit a fire.
It did.
So with the Downtown Improvement Grant, we actually administered that ourselves. We encouraged the business owners to apply. We had a whole objective grading system, and they had to put 25% in, but this pass-through dollars from the state, we administered, so 75% of their project could get this grant. And that really spurred a lot of new windows, new awnings, new signage, painting.
New doors.
New doors. And
the whole look.
Yes, and once people started doing that, even those who didn't get a grant started making changes with their business. So it was this whole wave of just improving the looks. And then the city had the opportunity in the second round to get some grant money as well. It allowed it in the second round. But we had so many apply for the money that we said our commission graciously agreed that the project that the city wanted to do, we just took it out of our general fund, our fund balance, and we did something small, but it was we repainted all of the decorative street light poles in our downtown. They were the old green that everybody used to do.
That faded.
They had very much faded. And our public works guys, we researched and found the right kind of paint, and they spent a summer repainting all of our light poles downtown. And then we hung, with the help of the Athena Delphian Club, we hung hanging baskets, and we have ferns and flowers and things. So we just did a lot of little things, and that's what I would like the message to be, is you don't have to spend tons of money to get great results. It can be the little things. It's very much a priority for me to keep things looking clean and neat because that's inviting and that's where people want to be. And so just things like having your team be conscientious about picking up trash, getting old dilapidated signs down or replaced. It just brings a whole new light to things and people migrate towards that. And Mayor Ray and I were just talking earlier today. I think our city employees, we came together a few years ago and we created a mission statement, and that is committed to excellent customer service. So I have very much pushed the customer service aspect of that. And I think our city, our residents, love what they're seeing. And when you're happy, you're friendly. So when people come into the community and they get welcomed with open arms and everybody is happy now, when I say everybody, I don't mean every single person.
Surely,
but
maybe one out there.
maybe one or two. But I think it makes everything
Well,
rise.
I've always thought as you travel around, not only in our state, but around the country, the downtown tells you something about that community. If you know no one that lives there, if you see a sense of pride in what the downtown looks like, then pretty much those people work together.
100%.
And I do believe our city employees and all of us take a lot of pride in making sure everything is.
Yes.
I mean, if I'm walking down the street and there's something on it, I'm picking it up. And I watch other people do that too. So.
All right, I'm going to change gears a little
Okay.
bit since we've got the mayor and the city manager. How do y'all keep that relationship that the mayor's got the mayor's job and the city manager has the city manager's job? Because coming from Savannah, Tennessee, we have a city manager form of government, and sometimes those lines get blurred a little bit. So y'all seem to work together real well. And is it just a fact that, as the young people say today, you stay in your own lane and you understand the role?
We do understand our roles, but we also help each other.
We're a good team.
We're a team.
You're to be reckoned with. That's right.
Absolutely. And we work together. Now, do we agree on everything we do? Well, we might not. I don't know. I think Kim and I agree on everything.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
But not everybody agrees. But you know what? We may not agree, but we're all here for the same purpose, to make life better in Paris, Tennessee, and make it the best it can be.
And we neither one, I think, bring our egos to the table.
No.
It's not about who gets more of the spotlight or who gets more of the credit or anything like that. And one of my favorite sayings is, it's amazing how much you can get done when you don't care who gets the credit.
That's right.
I try very hard to live by that. You know, I talked to a friend of mine once, and I was like, you know, does your ego ever get in the way? Because mine does sometimes. And she said, yes, I call it my she-go. And she's right. You know, sometimes you have to kind of put it in check. But I think that's one of the things that works very much to our favor. And I'm a huge, huge, huge proponent. This is probably one of my top goals, is to keep the cooperative, collaborative efforts in our community rolling together and in the right direction, because you're 100% right. You get so much more done if you work together. And in Henry County, I can truly say, it's not that we don't have our moments, but our county government, our city government, our school systems, our chamber, our hospital community, we all work very well together and do what we can to support one another. And that's a huge, huge benefit that I think we have in Henry County.
I think in particularly rural areas, economic development is like putting the pieces of a puzzle together, and y'all, like everybody else, we certainly love manufacturing jobs and know they're vital to our communities. But we also need to realize things like retail and tourism and all those other things like what y'all are doing really are the things that fill up that puzzle and takes a lot of the pressure off of just going out and trying to recruit manufacturing when you're located in an area geographically that sometimes to some manufacturers is not attractive to.
You're right, absolutely.
And we have a lot of tourism opportunities in our area, especially with the lake and everything in between. And Eiffel Tower Park, while it was an Eiffel Tower once upon a time, sitting there is a huge park with a splash pad. And
Tell our listeners about the Eiffel Tower you have.
well, we have a replica of the original Eiffel Tower. It is 70 feet tall. We are second tallest next to Texas.
Because they put a hat on top of it.
They put a hat on top of theirs.
Well, you know, they always.
Well,
try
we
to
don't have a hat on top of ours.
That's tacky anyway.
It really is. But ours is lit up, and it's, you know, we use red and green at Christmas and red and Valentine's Day, and it's a beautiful attraction. We received a grant to do some fun things around the Eiffel Tower. We have a new park over there by Blue Cross and Blue Shield. We have pickleball. We have a stage for music. We have music in the park.
You got a giant catfish.
We do. We do have a giant catfish.
Yeah, you
And
know.
really, a lot of what we've done in the last several years has been a vision. Even started with the previous city mayor, Carlton Gerald, and it kind of started with our Eiffel Tower Park. You know, if we wanted to give people a reason to spend an extra day in Henry County, because what I tell people that they don't really realize, because just like you said, industry's always king, but we're a very tourism-driven community. So let's give people another reason to stay. So we completely revised our outdoor pool. We added 3 water slides, and then we went into our splash park. And at the time it was built, it was the largest non-commercial splash park in the state. And it has definitely paid off as being that economic driver. In fact, Eiffel Tower Park is one of the top 5 generators for visits per year in our community. So we started with driving that, and one of the things we've done most recently that has really helped on the retail side is that we were very, very fortunate to be one of the founding cities of the Tennessee Retail Alliance. And that was started by Angie Carrier of MTAS.
Right.
And so through that organization, we have access to Placer AI, which gives us data. So now when we are trying to attract a retailer, we can tell them with numbers how and when our population grows in our city, who's going where and what their median incomes are and where our houses are being built and all of those things that retailers are looking for. And I was under the misconception of why would the cities need to provide that when retailers have resources? Well, come to find out, they have a lot going on too, and they'd much rather you hand it to them than them go out and get it themselves. So when we were able to pull that for ourselves, we've had a couple of site selectors come in, and those were first of all TJ Maxx and Aldi. We were able to bring them in, show them our community, and give them the data, which sold them on the shopping center project that's now being built.
Which was a 2-year project. It didn't just happen.
Oh yeah, no, definitely
It
not.
takes a while.
Yes.
Okay, you've been listening about the community of Paris, Tennessee, and again, the foot traffic has picked up around the podcast booth, so we apologize for the background noise, but we are broadcasting today from the exhibit hall at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference. All right, before we go, I know we've got listeners out there that'll say, you know, I'm interested in Paris, Tennessee. Might want to take a little trip down that way. Is there a website or someplace they can go and just get information on Paris?
Well, of course, the city has a website, paristn.gov. Easy enough. Go there. Our Paris Henry County Chamber has a website with a lot of great information. Either of those would be great resources. And also, we have someone on staff at the city. Her name's Abby Pierce, and she is our community engagement coordinator. And if you look on our Facebook page, we periodically post an Ask Abby post, and she is open for any question, whatever your interests might be. You send that to Abby, and if she doesn't know the answer, she will find it out and get back with you. So she's a fabulous resource.
And our Facebook is a great resource anyway. It's up to date all the time. More people are on Facebook really than they are a lot of the websites. Sure. So that's a great place to go to see what's currently going on or coming up, and so.
Well, we've had the dynamic duo with us today, Mayor Kathy Ray and City Manager Kim Foster from Paris, Tennessee. And I encourage you, if you've got a community and you would like to get in touch with these folks, because I've been to several presentations and they do a great job. And the thing that I love about this couple here today is they have a passion for what they do, and they have a passion for their community. And when you have that passion, good things happen. Thank you all for being on Rural Strong.
Well,
thank you
for
so
asking
much.
us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. This is Joe Barker, and this is the podcast Rural Strong, and we are broadcasting today from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we're actually recording this in the exhibit hall. Live from the exhibit hall. And if you hear some noise in the background, people are milling around, and but they're having a great conference, and we are fortunate to have the mayor of Cleveland, Tennessee with us. Yes, folks, the real Cleveland is in Tennessee,
That's
right,
exactly
Mayor?
right. The real Cleveland.
I grew up in Savannah, Tennessee, and the real Savannah
That's right.
is in Tennessee. And we appreciate him being with us today, Mayor Kevin Brooks. And Mayor, welcome to
Thank
Rural
you.
Strong.
Well, I'm honored to be here. Thanks so much to my dear friend Jill Holland for getting me out of my session and getting me over here. And let's talk about Rural Strong, because Tennessee is Rural Strong.
Well, it is. And tell our listeners a little bit about Cleveland,
Sure.
Tennessee, and what inspired you to seek the office of mayor.
Wow, that's a fantastic question. Thanks for the opportunity, Mr. Barker. So Cleveland, right next door to Chattanooga. Chattanooga is our suburb to the south.
Absolutely.
And we're
it's
very...
like I live in Jackson now, and Memphis is our suburb.
That's exactly right. And we are very proud to be good neighbors with Chattanooga. Lots of friends. We've had a great morning here in Chattanooga. Cleveland is just right up the road. We are #1 in the state last year for new manufacturing jobs, and continue to grow. And Mr. Barker, I spent 12 years in the legislature.
I'm Joe.
Thank you, sir. Joe. Spent 12 years in the legislature, and my hometown mayor, my hero, Tom Rowland, who is a legend here at TML. Everywhere I go, they ask about Mayor Rowland. He is now Mayor Emeritus. but he had served for 28 years, longest continual serving. There's one other guy with more years, but he had a break in service. Longest continual serving mayor. He was ready to retire. I had served for 12 long years in Nashville. That's like 27 in dog years.
Yeah, we'll pray for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was ready to come home, and I'm thrilled that the friends and neighbors in Cleveland allow me to serve as their mayor. It is a wonderful opportunity and very different than serving in the legislature, as your friend and neighbor Randy Rings can tell you.
Absolutely. Well, you know, when you follow someone that has served for so long and been successful, and the bar is set high, how'd you feel coming in that first day?
I still live in the shadow of Tom Rowland. He has the Tom Rowland interchange on the interstate, and you can't be a part of Cleveland. But what fantastic shoulders to stand on, the foundation of what we've been able to accomplish. The award that we will win tomorrow is a project that started under Mayor Rowland, the downtown Inman Street, the renovation of the Cherokee Hotel to the new municipal center. All of that started under Mayor Rowland. I am the fortunate recipient of all of that good fortune.
So the city of Cleveland is receiving the Award of Excellence from the Tennessee Municipal League. You've mentioned the project. What does that mean to the city of Cleveland?
And this is an overused term, Joe, but I'll say it, it's a game changer for downtown. Cities all across Tennessee are leaving their historic downtowns, and the population is growing to the north or growing to the suburbs. And so we have dozens of small hometowns that are not as active and occupied as they used to be. And Cleveland is no different. And so that's what we're doing. We are re-energizing and reinvigorating the 150-year-old mega downtown mega center, mega site where Whirlpool Corporation was located for 150 years, still our largest employer. They moved out to the suburbs. The mall was built on the north side of town. And so it leaves us with these beautiful historic buildings that we are repurposing. And the award is actually for Inman Street, which is also US 64, which goes right through our downtown. And the road diet and the planting of trees and the beautification of all that, I'm very honored that our friends and colleagues here at TML have given us the award to show our staff what great work they did.
Well, we have a lot in common, Mayor. I'm the former mayor of Savannah, and we are connected by Highway 64.
There you are.
It runs through downtown Savannah and all the way from West Tennessee up into East Tennessee. Cleveland is located in Bradley County.
That's correct.
And I know when I was a county mayor, we had a meeting up in Cleveland and went to the Ocoee River.
That's one of our most beautiful spots.
All right, tell our listeners, because this is a place they want to visit.
And that's the 1996 Olympic site for
Absolutely.
the Olympic rafting and whitewater rafting, and it's just a beautiful part of our county. It's next door in Polk County, but you literally, our street that we share, US 64, we call it the gateway to the Ocoee. And we are just 15 minutes. I can be from City Hall to the lake in 15 minutes. And it is truly a wonderful natural resource, so beautiful, and is one of the many things that we love to talk about with the city of Cleveland. And like you and the county mayors, when you visited, when people come to visit, we insist, let me take you somewhere that will take your breath away. The Cherokee National Forest, it's still as beautiful as it was 100 years ago when it was created.
Well, if you like whitewater rafting, you need to go.
Class 4.
That's right, to the Ocoee. I'm still getting over my first trip down the Ocoee. I didn't know if I would survive, but I did.
You will get wet.
You will get wet. Let's talk a little bit about challenges. You know, if you're a local elected official today, there's lots of pressures, lots of challenges, and in your view, Mayor, what are the 2 or 3 biggest challenges you see for people in your position right now?
Sure. Challenges, number one, is always going to be funding, or the limited funding that you have. You want to do everything. When I first was allowed to become mayor by my peers and my neighbors, I was able to sit down at City Hall, and they pushed a piece of paper across and said, "Here is the list of projects. What do you want to do first?" And I pushed the list back to the city manager, and I said, "I want to do all of it. I'm not going to prioritize. Let's do it all." And of course, funding is always limited. We need new schools. We need a new sports and aquatic center. We need new roads, Michigan Avenue, Mouse Creek. I need new sidewalks. I'd like to extend the Greenway. And so all of that is limited by the amount of funding. Now, we did something unique in the 2020s during COVID when everybody else was shut down. We got our financial house in order. And I'm very thankful the city council refinanced our debt just like we do as consumers. And we were able to lock in at 2% when the rates were incredibly low, and 95% of our debt is now fixed, which allows us to really invest in infrastructure and quality of life. We have 3 new parks, and so I'm very grateful the council took those steps. Painful. Diets are never fun, and we had to put ourselves on a financial diet, and thankfully now in 2025 going into 26, it worked.
And I appreciate you as you talk about your city bringing up the council. I wrote an article a few days ago about what I call the 5 biggest mistakes that local officials make. And one of those it's what I call stay in your own lane.
Wow.
And
so true.
And I've been a local elected official, and then in my job now I work with local elected officials. And Mayor, when I see trouble, it's when the mayor wants to run the council or when the council wants to become the mayor. And in every city or county I've ever been in, there are defined roles.
1,000%, yes.
I mean, it's in black and white.
I keep a copy of the city charter on my phone.
Well, and it's there. Why do you think it's so difficult sometimes for people to understand these are our roles? Because to me, a mayor is only as successful as their council or commission will let them be.
Correct. Well, I'm a history major, and so I go back to Winston Churchill, and when he said very eloquently, "Power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely," totally. I can just tell you that the checks and balances of a mayor having a council, having a full-time city manager — we are a city manager form of government in Cleveland — having those checks and balances is probably the most critical and crucial part and overlooked part. I'm thankful that you mentioned my comments about the city council. Every time I speak, I thank the council because it's their votes. Yes, I am the elected mayor, but I don't have a vote. I have a veto, but I don't break a tie. I can't cast a vote. And we just had a very important couple of sets of votes in the last couple of weeks. And they were very challenging, but it's incredibly important for the future of our city and the future of our tax base and bringing in additional taxes to pay for these new schools and new aquatic centers that we want to build. And it's incredibly important that the voters and the constituents — I actually use the word customers — that our customers know that the actions and the brave stance of these council members makes the future of Cleveland possible. We could not do it without them.
And Mayor, I think today especially, it takes courage to run for mayor. It takes courage to run for the council with social media.
I was going to say, we didn't have Facebook when Randy and I first ran.
When I was a city mayor and a county mayor, the thing I dreaded most was our weekly paper coming out, and you wanted to go see if there was a letter to the editor, okay? And once I scanned that, if I didn't see my name somewhere, I took a deep breath. This social media phenomenon where it's 24/7.
It's changed the game. It has changed the way people perceive us in public service. It's changed the way people perceive they can communicate. The worst way to get in touch with the mayor is Facebook messaging, but dozens of people still try. And it really has changed the way our society communicates, our children and grandchildren, and everybody else in between. So it to your point, it has changed the way we talk, because we just don't talk anymore.
No, and that's a real challenge, I think.
I think
Mayor.
civil discourse and the ability for Joe, you and I to have a conversation. We come from two very different cities, but we have much more in common than we do apart.
Absolutely. In fact, I had a conversation earlier today about at one time I worked for the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development, and one of my jobs was to work with the legislature. And I tell folks, these legislators, now this has been a few years ago now, they would debate on the floor, but it was nothing unusual to see them out to dinner at night, and I'm talking about from both sides of the aisle, and they genuinely enjoyed having dinner with each other.
Exactly right.
We don't see much of that anymore.
I got more done at steak dinners at Jimmy Kelly's with my friends from the opposite party, and that's really what we've lost in our state, we've lost it in our cities, and we've lost it at the federal level. The ability to find common ground, find agreement on something. Joe, you and I can find agreement somewhere, somehow, but for some reason, our society, we've lost the ability to do that, or even the desire to do that. And I can't imagine being a mayor, city mayor, or county mayor, and not having the ability to communicate directly. That's the big difference between Nashville and Cleveland, is I am the local mayor in our local city everywhere I go.
Well, and the thing I love about, well, I don't know if I love it, but it's really a challenge is when you go to the grocery store or you go to church or you go to a school function, the people know who the mayor is.
They do. Yes, they do.
And it's not difficult at all for them to tell you exactly what they think on almost any subject. Let me ask you this. I think it's real important to have community engagement. A well-informed community most of the time is a community that progresses. How do you keep your community engaged?
It's a great question, and thank you for asking. We've, just like you, we have started our new podcast, 5 Points with the Mayor. When you come downtown, you're in the middle of the city, and they call it 5 Points.
Great.
And so, just like you, I'm following in your footsteps, Joe. We've got our new podcast.
They're not very big footsteps.
No, they are. They're bigger than mine. I'm looking at yours right now, and we have YouTube videos with all the council members. Again, we feel like consumers, our customers, know how to communicate to us. It's very important that we communicate outward and that we give them the tools and the contact information, and we're working hard to do that. We've revamped the website. We've revamped all of our email systems and phone systems, and so we're keeping that as up to date as possible.
Super. All right, just a couple of minutes left here. And I should have researched this. Is the city of Cleveland, do you have a city school system?
We do. One of the few in the state. We have a county school system, and then in the 1960s, Cleveland City Schools formed their own special district. So we do have our own school system.
And I guess the greatest challenge for that is funding also.
Funding and justice. The challenge we had just 2 weeks ago at City Council was the school system says we need 2 new elementary schools immediately. And we're very thankful for the growth. We're thankful for folks moving to Cleveland. It's a good problem to have.
All right, we're going to have one final question, and I want to remind everyone that we are coming to you from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with Mayor Kevin Brooks of Cleveland, Tennessee. Mayor, we've got an aspiring person that wants to get in public service and maybe even run for mayor in their hometown. You're a veteran at this. You've been through the battles. What would be your piece of advice?
Well, Joe, first of all, I pray someone listening to this podcast runs for mayor. I really do, so that I can go on to do something else. That's how it happened to me. My state house rep in 2006 decided that they wanted to run for the Senate. And then I ran for that open seat. Same, my mayor, after 28 years, decided it was time. He said, I'd like for you to consider running for mayor and step up. I encourage people in leadership positions to allow the next generation to step up, to step in. My son, Zach, who's here at TML, has just gotten a fantastic job with Senator Bill Hagerty's office. Senator Hagerty is allowing the next generation to step up and step in. So my first thing is not to the young person interested. My first thing is to my colleagues who are in leadership, let's give the next generation a chance. and I know that will work because it happened to me. It's happened to my next generation. And then I would encourage the young people. I started this morning, our speaker at breakfast was former Congressman Zach Wamp. His first campaign in the 90s was my first ever. He gave a young man a chance, and people say, how did you get started? And I said, I did everything I needed to do or could do, bumper stickers, yard signs. Get involved in your community, in your local election cycles. Show yourself available for service, and service will find you.
Great. Wonderful conversation
Thanks,
with Mayor
Joe.
Kevin Brooks. We appreciate you being with us and wish the city of Cleveland nothing but the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This is Joe Barker, and welcome to Rural Strong. And today our podcast is coming to you from lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee, at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference. And we have a special guest today, the outgoing president of the Tennessee Municipal League, Mayor Paige Brown, the mayor of Gallatin. And Mayor, welcome to Rural Strong.
Well, I'm just honored to be here. Thank you so much for taking some time for me. I appreciate that, and that was a kind introduction, calling me special and all that.
Well, tell us about your tenure as president of the Tennessee Municipal League. Is there anything in particular that you're very proud that the cities were able to do while you were president?
Well, you know, as the league is always concerned with legislation happening at the state that could help cities or hurt cities, and so we continue to, fight and get some small wins here and there. But, it's always about making sure that the General Assembly realizes the value that Tennessee cities bring to the state of Tennessee, and to protect us and our ability to do that. But this year, as far as the league goes, we really worked on kind of setting a path for the future. We were really focused on how do we vision through the year 2040, what does this organization need to look like? How can we get more people to participate? How can we get more people to call on their own legislators, which is a real key element in us being successful. And then we want to grow this conference because there's a lot of people that don't attend this conference that would really get a lot of benefit out of it.
Tell our listeners, Mayor, about Gallatin, for those that may not be familiar, and I know we have listeners from all across the country, so give us your little elevator speech about Gallatin, Tennessee.
Well, Gallatin is just outside Nashville. We're about 30 miles northeast. We are founded in 1802, so we're a very old community. Was an agricultural community for well over a century, into the mid-20th century. And then we started to have some industry there, and of course, that has continued to change. There's very, very little agriculture remaining. Our community, the population when I grew up there was probably 8,000 or 9,000, and we're now 52 or 53, so we've grown substantially because of the popularity of Middle Tennessee. But our workforce has shifted greatly too. We no longer have farmers. We have, people that work in tech, or people that can do all the fancy robotic things that happen in factories and stuff these days. And so we have corporate headquarters, we have distribution centers, we have a large data center, we have the headquarters of ServPro. A lot of people know it's for that. The Beretta firearms are manufactured in Gallatin. So we have added a lot of jobs and frankly, some neat brands to our community in recent years.
So what inspired you to run for mayor?
Well, that's an interesting story.
Sometimes inspires.
I hope it could be inspiring, because I think everybody's path to the political arena is different, but I can certainly say that I never had any aspirations to have anything to do with politics. And what had happened was I had a long career in television, really got burned out on television, wanted to do something different in my life. And I had moved back to Tennessee and was actually living close to Gallatin. And I said to myself, I just want to find a job that I'm happy in. I was married at the time, so that's a big piece of the puzzle. Didn't need to make as much money, I thought. And so I thought, I just want to do a job that, I can be proud of and that I enjoy, and not worry about how much money I make and that kind of thing. And so I took a job running the Gallatin Chamber of Commerce. Actually, probably excavating the Gallatin Chamber of Commerce because it had pretty much gone into a very, very bad place. There was no director, no records, nothing. And so we built up the Gallatin Chamber of Commerce for several years. And in doing that, during that time, I also got divorced, and that very small paycheck didn't it was a real adjustment at that period in my life, but I'm so grateful for it now. But anyway, during that period of time, people started saying to me, you should run for mayor. And I was like, the first time somebody said that to me, I busted out laughing. I said, that will never happen, because I never thought I would ever even consider such. But the more people suggested it to me, the more I contemplated it, and ultimately began praying about it. Prayed for a whole year, got to the point where I knew I was supposed to run. I did not know if I was supposed to win, which is a really good way mentally to run for office. You know you're supposed to run, but you don't know you're supposed to win. And so I had the perspective that win or lose, I was there for a reason, and I was prepared for whatever the outcome was. And I won. I beat the incumbent. I went into office. I knew nothing. I thought I knew a lot. I'd been going to council meetings for over a year, every single meeting, and I thought I knew a lot. And I probably know a lot. At the time, knew a lot more than a lot of people in the community. But boy, the learning curve was steep, and I had the opportunity to learn so much, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I particularly like the administrative side. I am a full-time administrative mayor. We do not have a city manager. And so I like that side of it. I still don't like the political side of it, but I'm grateful for the experience, and it has been a true honor to serve my community.
What was the biggest surprise to you the first day you went in office, and I guess your expectations of what a mayor's office should be and what that person does? Was there anything that really surprised you that you didn't anticipate?
The thing, and I don't know if this was a first day surprise, but it did not take me long to truly appreciate the people that I have the opportunity to work with. I think because I'd worked in downtown Nashville close to a lot of state employees, and we would see them exit every day at 3:30 on the dot or whatever the time was they left. And so I had this, I don't know, probably an expectation that government employees just didn't have a personal investment in their job. And that was one thing I could not have been more wrong about, because I work with people at every level in our local government that care so much about the job they do. They take it very personally that they are serving the citizens of our community. And I often use the example, I got behind a guy on a brush truck one day, and he stopped at every brush pile, and once the little claw thing had picked up everything, he ran around the truck and picked up the last little sticks and was tossing in the top of the truck. And I thought, that's care. That's somebody that could totally get away without doing that piece of it, but how cool is it that he does do that piece of it?
Gallatin, as you mentioned, is very close to the city of Nashville. What's the pluses and minuses of being that close to a large metropolitan area?
Well, it is such a different, like Gallatin in relationship to Nashville 25 years ago was entirely different than it is now. Because back then, Nashville was a small city that had workers downtown during the day, and that was about it. And so it has changed so much, and by virtue of that, we truly have changed so much. And so there are, the advantages you have where you can live outside the city and go in for games and, whatever your sports team is these days, and that you can go there for entertainment, and you can see concerts, and you can, dine at some of the fancier restaurants in the area. The negatives, I think, are kind of the cultural changes that we're seeing as a result of so many people moving from other parts of the country to Middle Tennessee. I understand why people are drawn to Tennessee. We're a great state. We offer great cost advantages for people who want to move to our state. They think oftentimes that they are politically aligned with us, and that they'll be great fits here in the state of Tennessee. But we're seeing a lot of people that want to come in and they think they're going to save us from becoming like the place from which they came. And I try to have the conversations that I really believe the foundation of our state is different. And while the growth does cause some challenges, particularly financial ones. I think we have a good basis. I really do. And I think we need to honor that and respect that. And the thing that I wish that people coming to our area who, they say, oh, we were attracted here because the people are so friendly and it's so nice and kind and people are considerate and compassionate and they think about their neighbors. But then when they come here, they don't feel the same responsibility to perpetuate that. And so I wish that the people who were coming here would emulate what they saw that drew them here, because that's the only way that we can keep that personality that our whole state is known for.
As a mayor that's been in office for several years now, what's your greatest challenge, would you say?
For us, it's the growth. I used to say that the best thing and the challenge were the same because the growth was the best thing for a short period of time. But we are at the point now where the growth is the challenge, because with the growth, our housing has become unaffordable for people who are from the area. And we always, my parents, my grandparents, they were always so concerned about what can we do in this community that will make our kids want to move back here. Well, now we have a community that kids do want to move back to or stay in, because now we have so many trade school opportunities and we have so many high-level tech jobs and the advanced manufacturing, the trades jobs are tremendous. There's good jobs in our community, but they can't afford to live there. So there's this unintended imbalance that has occurred as so many people have come to our state and the nationwide shortage on housing, and it's just exacerbated with the influx of people to Tennessee and our state. So I think that's the hard thing. And because at the same time that I'm really hurting for the people who can't afford housing in the community they live in, I'm dealing with the much larger, more vocal population that's like, quit building, quit building, quit building, because they don't understand the effects on housing prices of the lack of inventory.
And we hear a lot about affordable housing, and I really don't know what affordable housing is.
Yeah.
It's just knowing what area you live in. But what role can a city play in trying to meet that challenge of the housing just for the people that make the city work, the nurses and the teachers and the policemen and the firemen, because we see this explosion and prices just keep going up. Is there a role that a city can play?
Well, I feel like the role that a city plays is allowing for the market to do what it does. And that's why I remain a proponent of increasing the availability of housing, because basic economics dictates that supply is going to have the greatest impact on your housing prices. TASER did a study last year. I serve on TASER, and they were looking at a lot of things that affect affordability. And interesting to me, they didn't feel like impact fees had a negative impact on affordability because it allowed for greater inventory, and greater inventory had a larger impact on affordability. That said, when you said what's affordable anymore, I don't think you can rent an apartment in our city for less than what I pay in a mortgage.
Yeah.
Because I've had my house a long time. But when you look at these people in entry-level positions trying to afford housing, and their mortgage or their rent payments are truly larger than most of our mortgage payments, there's a problem. There was a data point that I heard recently that in 2000, that you and I could buy a median-priced home based on the median income for a year's salary, or maybe a year and a half salary. Now it's 6 years' salary.
Wow.
And so there's no way to get there unless you're going to live at home with your parents, or you're making a whole lot of money or working 3 jobs, and you have a path to saving. Because how do you spend that much money a month on rent and save for a house? It's just not feasible. And you talk about our very, very important people in our community, the police, the firefighters, the teachers. the people that work in the hospitals. The problem is, if they can't live in or near your community, they're going to keep getting pushed further and further away, so that for somewhere like Gallatin, all of a sudden those people who work in Gallatin are closer to Cookeville or they're closer to Bowling Green. So why wouldn't they go work there? And so that's what I worry about.
Yeah, I've got 4 children, and they all live in this Middle Tennessee area, and it just has amazed me when they got in the market for, I guess, what we used to call the starter house. You know, this is where they're going to begin, and the price of housing, it just really blew my mind. But let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about community engagement. How do you get your community engaged? Is there a plan you have or a process? How do you do that, Mayor?
We've tried lots of different processes and plans, and we have actually, since I've been in office, we've gone through a strategic plan, a parks and recreation plan, a land use plan, and we're updating our zoning code now. So we've had, lots of opportunities for long-range engagement of our citizens on those projects. And then, of course, we're an odd city. We have meetings every week. We have a work session one week, we have a voting meeting the next, then another work session, and then another voting meeting. So 4 meetings a month. We do take 5th Tuesdays off, but there's usually about 3 a year. And just, people are busy in their lives. They're and I always say, they're doing what they should be doing. They're spending time with their family, they're going to the ball fields, they're going out to eat, they're partaking in activities in their community, they're hanging out in their neighborhood. Those are all great things, but they show up when they're mad about something. And so that's just the nature of what government does at the local level. We get people all out to be engaged when they're mad about something.
There we go.
So
They
show up to be against something. I used to joke that we should put coming soon Walgreens on every corner, because all of a sudden they'd start showing up. Because, when something's being built next to you, you show up.
Not in my backyard.
Exactly.
Right.
But social media has in a lot of ways changed our world. For a while it felt like it changed it in a good way, and now it doesn't feel that way quite so much, because social media has become such a soapbox, I think, for people who want to complain. I think people that feel favorable towards things are less likely to engage. Invariably, when we have 10 people lined up to speak against something, they'll say, no one's coming up here to speak for it. And I'm like, no, they won't. No one ever comes and says, please build next door to me. But they also aren't here fighting it, because they understand the nature of change and they accept it. And they can often find the advantages that come with the negatives.
Last question.
Okay.
When Mayor Paige Brown decides, I don't want to be mayor anymore, I just want to live a normal life, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I did a good job. I don't want any. I want people to be able to say, she was there during a really hard time, but she really did a good job. That's all I want. Period. People are always like, don't you have a project, or don't you have? No. I just want to. I want people to feel, and I don't even want them talking about me, to be honest. I just want, if someone asked them, that they would have the perspective that I did a good job during a hard time. And really, that's my legacy in life. It really doesn't have anything to do with even being mayor, just that I tried to do good and tried to help, and, tried to help people find their way in life in some cases. And
Well, I want to thank you for your service.
thank you for yours.
Well, I tell folks it's the kind of job that not everybody's patting you on the back every day and telling you what a great job you do. But I think, and it comes through certainly with you, is when you have a passion for your community and want to see good things for your community, with all the other things you have to deal with, it usually happens.
I hope so. I do. The people that I work with in the city of Gallatin, they want the best for Gallatin, and I want the best for Gallatin. And I know that probably a lot of people don't think that to be true, but I know it to be true. And it's like when my dad gets really upset about something, spinning up on social media. I'm like, Daddy, you know who I am? I know who I am. You just got to let those people have their say, but try not to pay attention to it.
Absolutely. Well, our guest has been Mayor Paige Brown, mayor of Gallatin, Tennessee. Does an outstanding job, and we appreciate your time.
I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Joe Barker, and this is Rural Strong. Our podcast today is coming to you from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we've had the opportunity to speak to several local elected officials. We've had the opportunity to speak to some of the presenters at their breakout sessions. And we've got a special guest today, Mayor Blake Lay of the lovely city of Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. And Mayor Lay, welcome to Rural Strong.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate what y'all do, and glad to be here.
All right, give us your elevator speech on Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. Somebody that's never heard of Lawrenceburg.
We are a rural community about an hour and 15 minutes south of Nashville, right above. We border on close to the Alabama line down there. Beautiful country, large land area for a city like Lawrenceburg, but growing. We are really seeing extraordinary growth, not only new people moving in, other people who are locating there from outside of the Nashville area moving down. We've landed several new manufacturing facilities there. Our housing market has exploded. We now have probably 3 what I would call regional and national developers that are building homes in our area. And it's an explosion. New retail coming in. We've got our first Starbucks coming to town. We've got a Waffle House.
Well, you've hit the big time.
we have, but it's a lot of fun. We really have a great community there. We work very well. Our structure is our Chamber of Commerce is overall economic development, tourism, and those things. And we have a great state park there, nearly 2,000 acres in David Crockett State Park there that have right at 720,000 visitors a year.
Wow.
So just a vibrant, growing community, still with a really good hometown feel, though, is what makes Lawrenceburg special, good people.
Tell our audience a little bit about your background and what inspired you to run for mayor.
Well, born and raised in Lawrenceburg, went off to University of Memphis State at my time to go play a little football. And when I was over there, I was really watching political things that were happening, got interested, helped a friend of mine run for Congress. He wasn't successful, but really looked at that. And when I never planned to be back in Lawrenceburg, came through and met my wife in Lawrenceburg and ended up staying, and I started just looking, and I was asked during that time to look at running for the state Senate. And when I started that and made a decision to run, of course, helped a little bit. Fred Thompson was from my hometown, and Fred was a family friend and was around that and watched the things that were happening in him. You had just a wave of things going on. So I ran for the state Senate. I lost by less than 0.5% in a heavily Democratic district at that time. It was really a Democratic district, and lost an incumbent, Pete Springer, which turned into be a dear friend after it was all said and done. I can't say that when I was campaigning, but during that I campaigned in 8+ counties, and during that time, I just noticed Lawrenceburg was not doing as well as these other things. One of the main cities I was in was Dixon up there in Lexington, Tennessee. And I just knew that we didn't have that energy about our community. So I came back and talked to the mayor at the time, who had supported me in my Senate race. And he was an elderly gentleman. And I asked him what his plans were for Lawrenceburg. And he said, I got a sewer line I want to finish.
There you go.
And I said, okay. I said, what else? He said, yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, I decided to run, and I was elected the youngest mayor ever of Lawrenceburg. I was 33. And we just went about a lot of changes. We put some really stuff. We changed our form of government. They'd been trying to do that since 1952. So we actually got to change the charter of our government. We ended up putting in place a city manager form of government different than a city administrator, city manager, and a strong mayor form of government. And we have 4 other councilmen and the mayor. We all run at large in the city. There's no districts. And it really has formed a good basis, and we've been on the thing. We turned around and just made a lot of changes to the way we do business in the community. And we combined all of our utilities under one roof. When I came in, I was actually over gas, water, and sewer. Now, if anything you never want to do is have an elected official over gas, water, and sewer. So we turned around and put that under our electric board at the time called the Power Board. Now that is all under a group called LUS. We supply power, water, the whole gamut, gas and sewer to our customers. And TVA actually tells people, if you want to look at the way to set up utilities, come look at Lawrenceburg and Lawrence County. So it's been really good.
Well, I know Lawrenceburg has really grown, very progressive community. As a mayor, what would you say is your greatest challenge right now?
It's managing growth. I tell people all the time that there's no sitting still. You're either going up or you're going down, and you've got to be real careful in our role as in leadership, because you're laying the groundwork. You're trying to look 5, 10, 30, 50 years out, and especially when it comes to dealing with utilities. Utilities are a vital part of anything you do, and you don't just turn around one day and go build a water treatment plant or a sewer plant. So those things, and keeping the public informed of what you're doing, it's one of the more difficult things. Back when I was mayor my first time, you turned around, all you had to do was get on the radio or go to put something in our local newspapers. We had 2 at the time. Everybody knew anybody. They'd walk into the coffee shops and you'd do it. Now you have so many avenues of communications that it's very difficult. You would think it would be simple to get a message out. It's very difficult to get message, and that's a challenge that everybody is trying to see. How do you keep everybody informed? How do you keep all these things happening? And as a community is growing, you don't want to forget where you came from, what makes you special, why people like this, and we continue to do that. We hired our first city planner to come in and help us look at land use and what we're doing and how we do that. And we, of course, we're still a rural community. We have farmers that drive through the middle of the town with their tractors now still, and I have a passion for that. I grew up, my first real job was working on a dairy farm, and we milked about 120 cows, twice a day. And so I have a passion for that, but I also know that we're changing, and we've got to be able to bring everybody along for this.
You mentioned messaging, and back when I was a city mayor and county mayor, it was really pre-social media as we know it today, and we had a weekly paper, and it came out on Wednesday night, and I'd run down to the newspaper office on Wednesday night, and the first thing I'd do is go to the letters to the editor, and if I didn't see my name in there somewhere, it was a good week. and talk a little bit about the way it has changed to be in public service today, where it's 24/7 social media, and people can absolutely say whatever they want to say. It's got to be difficult.
It is a completely different game. Like I said, social media, when I first came in, you did exactly the thing. I could go on the radio and talk. The newspaper was the same way. You had the letters to the editor, but you had a friendly media, for no better term. Nowadays, with Facebook and the other things, anybody is an expert. They will fire anything, they'll say anything, because it's like they have no checks and balances.
There's no filter.
There's no filter. I do not respond to anything that's said on Facebook. I figured it out. If you ever let them know that you even know about it, then comes more. But it is a very difficult thing, and a number of people can say really, really hurtful things. I tell people, I'm a big boy, I can get it, but it really hurts your kids, it hurts your family, and that is one of the things that makes it more difficult, really makes it more difficult now. And it drives a lot of people out of politics. A lot of good people don't get into politics. I'm just not going to put my life out there for everybody to see. But this whole system, this whole thing, the United States of America was based on people, serving and helping others and trying to make a difference. And that's scary that these telephones have done that. And don't forget, they can take pictures of you at any time, in any place.
Or they can make up pictures now.
Now you don't even have to take a real
You don't even have to be there.
You don't have to be there.
That's
You
right.
say, I wasn't even in the state at that time. Yeah, here's your picture, climbing on top of the Capitol or something. So.
Our guest is Mayor Blake Lay from the city of Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. And once again, if you hear some background noise, we are in the exhibit hall at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Mayor Lay, how do you get your community engaged? If you, want to get support for whatever vision you might have, how do you get the community engaged?
Well, a lot of it has to do with a really good working relationship with our media at home. We'll do that. I on a normal basis, in speaking to our civic clubs, I go talk to our civics clubs. I have a thing with it once a month. We have lunch with the mayor, and we'll have the people come in. If there's something on their mind, come talk to me. I may not give you the answer you want, but at least you can hear it from me of what we're doing. And again, working well with other leaders. Me and my county executive, county mayor get along very well, along with the other mayors. We have another community, Loretta. We have Etheridge in our community. And I like to say that, I can start a sentence, the county exec can talk in the middle, and the mayor of Loretta can finish it. And that's not the norm. You have in a lot of communities the fighting between counties and cities. We figured out a long time ago if we do things together, we have a lot better chance. And we partner with the county on projects all the time. We're putting new lights. We built a college together. We have a 4-year college there now with UT Southern's in classes there, Columbia State, and Tennessee Tech. Well, that was a joint venture between the city and county. And I get invited sometimes to talk to other communities, and I said that partnership and ability to work together makes life so much easier to not be fighting.
I think I'm correct in saying for a rural community, Lawrenceburg, Lawrence County has taken their economic development efforts to another level. In fact, I know people around the state look at what you do. Yeah. So talk a little bit about the efforts, maybe even the dollars y'all now put into that.
Well, it's really, and I go back to when I was mayor the first time, tell you a quick story about that. And when I came into office, we were just not doing that well. And a gentleman head of ECD at the time was commissioner, a guy named Bill Baxter. And Bill Baxter, I went to see him. I had known Bill, and this was during the Sundquist administration. And I said, hey, we're not getting any looks. What's going on? He said, Blake, can I be honest with you? And I said, yes, sir. Yeah, please do. You always have. He said, you ain't got your shit together. Pardon my language there. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, I need to know that Lawrenceburg is prepared. Most people don't understand that the state of Tennessee, if they have a prospect, they only may get 3 or 4 visits with this prospect. He said, never forget, we're competing against Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, Georgia, and these other states. So I said, okay. He said, who represents Lawrenceburg? Who represents Lawrence County? And he said, you need one point of contact. And I said, well, who does it better than anybody else? And he said, Greeneville, Tennessee, and Tupelo, Mississippi. I came back home from that meeting. A friend of mine that was the county exec, I loaded him and another county commissioner and the mayor of Loretta. We went up and spent 3 days in Greeneville, and we came back and we copied their model. So when you come to Lawrenceburg to do business, our Chamber of Commerce is our Chamber of Commerce, Workforce Development. Now we have tourism under that. And we took all this. I would love to say that, we invented this whole thing. We copied and stole from everybody their best ideas and put it together. And right now, our budget's a little better than $1.3 million, $1.4 million. The county funds it, the city funds it, all the cities in the community do it, and we have nearly 600 members of our Chamber of Commerce. So what you've got is communications throughout our community with that, but a real focus on that. And having the one point of contact in our community, along with, I told you we combined our utilities. So you can have a company come in to us. We can literally sit there. That guy can put together the deal. They can work through all the utilities, and we can do that. Tell you a quick story on how that can work. We had a company. Company is called Flexco. They're out of Elkhart, Indiana. Well, I had met this guy, and he came to Lawrenceburg and fell in love with it. Looked at it, and we got him to start. He was going to build a spec warehouse there for them. Well, I went up to his place in Elkhart, looked around, and I made 2 visits with him. I said, "You need to do a factory here. And you got to know this guy. Heck, I don't want to do no factory." Well, that was on a Tuesday. Well, Monday morning, I get a phone call at about 6:30 in the morning. He said, "I've been thinking about this. Let's do a factory." He said, "When can you get together?" And I said, "When can you be here?" And he said, "What about Thursday?" He comes down Thursday. We had ECD from the state. We had TVA. We had my power guy. Our utilities guy, along with the economic development. We spent about 2.5 hours, and we ended up with a $4 million building being built, and to the tune of about $25 million capital investment in that, and we moved that quick with it.
Absolutely outstanding. Last question
Okay.
for you, Mayor. When Mayor Lay decides, I've had all the mayor business I want, and you decide to live a normal life, what do you want your legacy to be?
That we improve people's lives. Made a difference on that, and that's what I really like about being a mayor. Everybody is always, well, you want to be a congressman, a senator, or state rep, or that. Where the rubber hits the road in most communities is in your local mayor's office, keeping your roads paved and doing that. And you can make things happen. You can build tennis courts. You can build pickleball courts. You can change out lights on soccer fields and do things. And you really, at the end of the day, you can turn around and go, we did that. We did that. And you don't get that in any other place of government that I've seen. I've been very blessed to be around a lot of very good politicians. But at the end of the day, you turn around and what did I really do? Well, as a mayor, you really get to do that, and you can make a mark on your community. One of the things that I hope is I set a legacy of drawing more young people into politics. Politics is becoming an old man's business, and it shouldn't. I know the energy and stuff that I had when I was 33, and I'm fixing to be 60, and it's just a different way. And the other thing, just a quick thing, I do have I'll meet with high school students. I go and have an under 30 crowd because I want to see what they see Lawrenceburg, the way they look at Lawrenceburg, because I'm looking at it through a 60-year-old person's eyes. I need to know what an 18-year-old thinks about it, what a 25-year-old. And in setting that ground up and making, as they say, making it a little bit better than what I found it.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I've told people this when they talk about serving in public office, and particularly a mayor. It's that one job where you can have that thought or that idea or that vision, and you can see it at ground level, and then you can see it to the finish. And there's not many other professions that you can do that.
We dreamed of a college. We noticed that we were losing our best and brightest. We're leaving Lawrenceburg. And if you ever lose them, it's hard to ever get them back from the city lights, as they say. And we started working, and it was an 8-year project of love, and we put a little better with local and our money, nearly $12 million into a facility. We have a beautiful 40,000 square foot campus on right at 50 acres. And to do that, and last year we had our first MBA program offered there. 6 years ago, you couldn't even get a degree in Lawrenceburg. Now we have a master's degree program. So those are the kind of thing that make it really, really, really great.
Fabulous. So you can do it in rural areas. You just ask Mayor Blake Lay. He'll tell you how it's done. Well, we appreciate Mayor Lay giving us his time during the Municipal League Conference and being on the RuralStrong podcast. And Mayor Lay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you,
sir.
This is Joe Barker, and this is the RuralStrong podcast brought to you by Southwest Tennessee Development District in lovely Jackson, Tennessee. We're speaking to various guests today at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're actually located in the exhibit hall, so if you hear a little background noise, there's people milling around, and it's a tremendous conference they're having here in Chattanooga. And we're lucky today to have Mark Farley, who is the Executive Director of Upper Cumberland Development District, with us. And Mark, welcome to RuralStrong.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Mark, tell our listening audience a little bit about the development district and the region that you serve.
We cover a 14-county area based out of Cookeville, Tennessee. We're completely rural. We have no urbanized areas in our footprint, and we're a pretty good size operation. We're running about 100 employees. We operate a number of different state and federal programs that try to improve the economy and the quality of life for our citizens.
And Cookeville, I guess, is the largest city in your district, but they do have Tennessee Tech University, and I'm sure Tennessee Tech is a great partner with the development district.
It certainly is. It is our most trusted asset that we have in the region, and they do a great job making sure that they bring the tools and the capabilities of the Tech campus to the rural communities they serve.
Upper Cumberland, I think, is known for being very progressive, thinking outside the box, because most of us development districts, we have a set programs that all of us pretty much do. But I know you've got a program that you're really passionate about called Empower, and I know our listeners in the rural areas would love to know what that program is and what it's doing for your region.
Yeah. Well, going back about 3 or 4 years ago, during the height of the pandemic, my mayors come to me and they said, listen, you're going to have to be more proactive. We've got employers that can't find employees. They're not moving up the economic ladder, and we need help in that area. So we started looking, and we're very fortunate. We went after one of the TANF Opportunity Act grants that the state offered. There's 7 pilots that they offered across the state, and we were one of those 7. So we received a 3-year that's now turned into a 4-year, $25 million pilot grant to try new innovative ways to help young families work up that economic ladder. So we've been very excited. It's a true partnership. We have Tennessee Tech, our local hospital, which is a regional hospital, our Workforce Development Board, some local economic development initiatives as well as the Development District and the Human Resource Agency.
Tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of the program, how it works, your target that you're trying to serve. Tell us a little bit about that.
It is designed for those young working families that are struggling to move up that economic ladder. And the majority of the families we're working with are single moms. We do have some single dads and some 2-parent households, but the majority of them are single moms with at least a couple children. And what we found is they get stuck in a low-paying job because of the needs of having a young family and trying to make sure they can cover the bills, but they're not moving up into better-paying jobs. And what we want to do is try and find some new ways of trying to work with these families to improve their skill sets and give them the confidence to take that giant leap and leave the job that they know and they understand now that's paying them I don't want to say a decent wage. In most cases, it's not paying them enough to survive, and be able to move and take that next step to a job that's going to have more responsibility but also pay better.
So talk about some successes you've had.
And we've had some successes. We graduated our first batch of families. This, like I said, over a 2-year period. And out of 68 families that graduated, they increased their earnings by $2.4 million in that amount of time. It's just been incredible working with our Tennessee Tech partners. They've been able to help them on the skill set levels to then take a better paying job and move up that ladder.
As we talk about moving people into the workforce, and everybody that I'm sure is listening to this podcast has the same challenges we have here in Tennessee on having enough folks to fill the jobs that are available. Child care is a huge obstacle, particularly coming out of COVID. There were many child care facilities that shut down during COVID, did not reopen. Upper Cumberland has been a leader in child care. Let us know a little bit about what you're doing there.
Not only have we been working with families, what we were able to do through this pilot grant, because it was a very lucrative grant, being $25 million, it allowed us to look at barriers. And the first one we started looking at is child care, because we realized that in our region we had a huge deficit of capacity. We estimated around 7,000 slots of child care that was needed to be able to get the workforce participation rate number to where it needed to be. So we started digging in. I actually was able to hire a lady who basically did the secret shopper deal, and she went through the whole process as if she was trying to start a daycare, trying to understand. And what we learned was it's a bureaucratic nightmare between a licensing process, fire marshal process, local codes, health departments. What we saw was a lot of individuals that were trying to open a daycare, but they were just burdened down by the process, and they would give up, unfortunately, before they got over the finish line. So what we've been trying to do is trying to figure out how we can streamline that, and we've taken a couple of different approaches. We've worked with the General Assembly, and very fortunate. We've had some legislators who have been very attuned to that, have worked with us to try and improve the regulatory burdens that are out there. Working with the fire marshal to help them understand the disconnect that many of these individuals were dealing with. And the next thing is the financing. You know, a child care facility is a very low profit margin with a lot of high startup cost, and that's not a winning business combination right there. So we've been trying to figure out how to make it more effective and more efficient to open up so that the numbers make sense.
Well, child care is one of those things that we all talk about, know there's a need, and I know for those of you who are not familiar with the state of Tennessee, Mark, his office is located, I'd say, almost halfway between Nashville and Knoxville, so it's going east in Tennessee. And I know in West Tennessee we have the same challenges and the same struggles on filling those jobs. The other challenge I think that we all face is housing. Mm-hmm. Whether you're in a metropolitan area, a rural area, wherever you might be, is housing. And we're talking about, sometimes I think, Mark, when we talk about affordable housing, what is really affordable housing? But we're talking about the folks that make this country work. Where do the nurses and the teachers and the policemen and the firemen, where is that housing, and what's happening in your region?
Yeah, in our region, we've really suffered through this. We've had some development happen, but it's been more on the high end for the higher earners. And what we're seeing is a sort of a glut of the high end properties with very few affordable houses being built. And that's one of the things we deal with is terminology. People hear that term affordable housing, they think Section 8 projects, those type of things, and that's not what it is. Everybody has an affordable housing range that they need to be able to buy into based on what their salary is. And that doesn't matter if it's $30,000 a year or $100,000 a year. You've got a fixed amount that you can put towards housing. What we're seeing where we're based, like you said, between Nashville and Knoxville, our growth is coming our way, and we're working as a development district. What we realized is we can't build our way out of housing problems. That's not a project we can take on. So we've started trying to recruit developers just like we recruit industries or businesses. So we've brought several groups into the Upper Cumberland, helped them see where they could have multiple locations, multiple apartment units in 2 or 3 different cities, and it makes sense that then they can build the infrastructure. One of the things I didn't realize is apartment complexes, they need the support system just like a delivery system for products and services. They have to have a maintenance person, somebody that can collect rent and those type of things. So a lot of times the developers we've been talking with, they're not wanting to just build one standalone apartment unit. They're really looking to build 3 and 4 within a close proximity, and then they have a whole support team that supports them. So, and fortunately, with the prices happening in Nashville and Knoxville, that's sort of driving them out of those markets, and they're looking into the Cookeville area to see if there's a more affordable options there, and we're going to try and take advantage of that.
Now, when you bring these contractors in and talk to them about potential projects, do they usually already have financing, or do y'all help them go through the lending process? How does that work?
Most of the affordable housing developers, they are doing tax credits, so they understand that process. They're going to apply for the tax credits and try and build from that standpoint. That's one of the things we've realized is our local developers, and we've got great local developers, but they've not ever had to go through that route. They've never went through the tax incentive programs that the state has and the federal government has. So financing really isn't as much if we're trying to show them that the need is there, and that if they put an apartment complex, that it's going to be safe and they're going to be able to rent it and keep it rented.
Mark, like myself, we're directors of a regional organization, and I've always thought, Mark, one of the challenges is getting a region to work together. And I really don't know what the secret is, but what's your thoughts on how you can get a region to come together? Because, you know, lots of times we'll work maybe helping bring a manufacturing project in, and it locates in one county, and we all know it's going to help the region, but the other county next to it is upset. Yeah. So your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's the million-dollar question that we all try and figure out. And I think what you see is over time, as mayors are in office, they gain that experience. They realize the benefits that happen when a development comes to a neighboring community. So there, as time goes on, I think regionalism is easier if you've got an older, more established leadership base. It's when you bring the new mayor in and he's made all the promises. He wants to build a new industry or bring an industry into his community, and he's made promises he's trying to make happen. So a lot of it's education, helping them understand how their employees, how their citizens are moving from county to county every day. People don't see county lines, city borders. They go where they have services and jobs that they can tap into, and the mayors have to realize that as well.
We've been talking to Mark Farley, the Executive Director of Upper Cumberland Development District. I know you've probably heard a little background noise. We're in the exhibit hall at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Mark has talked about some of their innovative programs. They do a lot of things at Upper Cumberland. If one of our listeners wanted to maybe go to your website just to see about your programs and maybe even contact you, give them some information.
Yeah, uppercumberlanddevelopmentdistrict.com. We're out there on the internet. Just type that in and you should come right to us, and be glad to talk to you about it.
All right. Mark Farley has been our guest on Rural Strong. This is Joe Barker, and this is Rural Strong, and we are broadcasting our podcast today from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee. And not only have we had the opportunity to speak to some local elected officials, we've got an opportunity to speak to one of the speakers here today that's training all this group of local elected officials, Kathryn Good. Kathryn, good to be with you, and appreciate you being on Rural Strong.
Absolutely, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, tell us about your company and what you do, and I guess get into a little bit about how you got into the world of AI.
Sure. So I am the founder of Good Circle Marketing. We are based out of Sumner County, specifically Gallatin, and I started the company 4 years ago. after losing my job in COVID. So at the end of 2020, I lost my job, and I just decided I didn't want to drive back downtown to Nashville every day as I looked for another career. And so I had no intention of starting a marketing agency, but you know how that goes sometimes. So we started, and I was going to try to pick up a few clients, and then all of a sudden I had more clients than I knew what to do with, and so we started building a team. We focus mainly on small businesses, nonprofits, a lot of Sumner County-based businesses, but we have really companies all over the country now too. So we focus on, our tagline is do good work and be good at telling the world about it. So we focus on the good work people are doing. The more good work we do, the easier it is really to market. And so that's what we focus on, is just the good people are doing.
Kathryn, a lot of our listeners live in rural communities, really not only Tennessee but across the nation, and I'm sure a lot of them have heard of AI and maybe played around with AI a little bit. But, you know, I've always thought, looking at this, and I'm certainly not a techie, is that AI has helped level the playing field for these communities that don't have large staffs.
Absolutely.
So what's your message to them about how you see AI being such a plus for them in their work?
Yeah, so we expand capacity and talent in the businesses we work with. That's at the heart of what we want to do. And so when AI came around, it was just a no-brainer. Like, we have changed our products, we have added services just based on AI because it is so accessible. I've said very, very early when I started going, 2 years ago, I started using AI in the company, and we really had the mindset of being AI forward. But what I realized was small businesses and small, communities, it really does level the playing field. And especially, a lot of times it makes it easier because we don't have as much red tape to go through. And so, yes, these tools can just make communication especially a lot easier. And so from a marketing standpoint, we really wanted to learn those tools very, very quickly, and then be able to teach people how to use them.
Talk a little bit about the marketing aspect.
Yes.
As you look at AI and how a community can use AI, if you could give them 2 or 3 pieces of advice on the use of AI, what would it be?
So let's just look at some of the challenges a rural community might have in marketing. So a limited budget, small staff, it can be hard to get the expertise you need. So AI can help with all of those things. It really is about expanding capacity and about expanding talent. So if you, I often say to start with a piece of content that you are doing anyway. So if a city government is putting out a new policy, so we take that policy and we use AI to create social posts or create an email or create a text message. So we can repurpose that content very, very easily using AI. That you start with your original message, what you were trying to say, the original piece of content, so it's still in your voice, but then you can repurpose it quickly. A lot of times people don't know how to do simple things. So for example, editing a website. It's if you should be able to log on and edit this website pretty quickly, but you're not quite sure the steps to take. As long as you're not kind of getting out of your lane, what I like to say, then it can be easy to go to AI and say, give me step-by-step instructions for editing this website or whatever that you may be doing. Just that entry level, let's learn something new. Without having to pull in an expertise or an expert or a consultant and pay that contract. Now, I do say, if you get in there and you feel like you're a little bit out of your lane, then it is. We all are blessed with different gifts and talents, and so at some point, if you start to go, okay, even though I have step-by-step instructions, this is a little hard, then it is time to call in that expert. But it just really levels the playing field for learning at least being introduced to new skills that might help our communities.
Great. We're speaking today with Kathryn Good, the founder of Good Circle Marketing, and we're coming to you from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in Chattanooga. And if you hear a little background noise, it's because we're in the exhibit hall and people are milling around. All right. The other day, I was going to try to get some particular information on a community in Tennessee. And I typed in, I was going to use AI, And I guess in my feeble mind, I didn't realize that there are lots of these communities across the nation that have the same name. And I actually did not put Tennessee in there. And so there are some things that you've got to be careful about, because I guess AI is only as good as how well you explain it to.
Yes, for sure. So that's what we call prompting. Do you mind me asking what tool you use? Do you remember?
It was Grammarly.
Okay. So Grammarly is excellent for, correcting grammar and spelling and things of that nature. So a lot of times we use ChatGPT or a similar LLM is what we call it, large language model, which is just a software or platform that's been trained on a whole lot of data. But it also likes to make things up. So if you don't say, for example, the state, then it'll just assume something. And when we make assumptions, they're not always right, correct? And so we want to, this is what we call prompt engineering. So we want to be very good at prompting. And the more information you can give it, the better. So we want to give it the context. We want to give it as much information as we can. What is our goal? So we want to say, like, what did you want to do with doing this research on that city? What do you hope to do? So AI really wants to make you happy. It wants to help you. It wants to be an assistant. But I often say, and if assistant came in and said, how can I help you today? And you said, go write an article, but you're not telling them what the article's about or where it's going to go or how long it should be, then it's a disservice to that assistant. And it's the same thing with AI. The more information we can give it, the better. And then when the AI comes back and it's not what you want, again, the more feedback we can give it, the better. And we're training it along the way to, again, it wants to assist you. It wants to make you happy and do a good job. And so we have to give it that feedback and training for it to do its job.
And Kathryn, I guess where we are today with AI and a lot of other platforms, we're really on the ground floor. And I know you have to be excited just looking at the future and what possibilities are out there. Well, how do you see this evolving?
So in my presentation this afternoon, there's a slide that says the AI we have right now is the dumbest it'll ever be. So it is getting smarter every day, every minute. It's a constant noise. It's very hard for me to try to stay up to date with this. But it is, and there's a lot of fear and we're scared about some things that we're seeing, but it's coming. It's we're saying that it is the next revolution. We've had the Industrial Revolution and the when computers took over and everything was social media, but this is the next revolution. So we need to start learning it now so that we're not just so far behind. There's kind of three different mindsets as we just put our head in the sand and we don't want to do it, and then there's another mindset of we'll let the tools kind of catch up or kind of be stable before we learn it, and then but who knows when that's going to happen, if it does at all. And then the last kind of tier of this is jump in and get involved. And it is they're saying that 30% of entry-level jobs will be gone in the next couple of years because we're training the AI to do basic repetitive tasks, which is great for me because it gives communities more time to go network and be in a relationship and do good things that only humans can do. But we also have to start to prepare for this. And what are we using this AI so that we're not left behind?
And you mentioned the workforce, and I know that there's a fear out there that this artificial intelligence is going to replace people in the workforce, and we know that there are going to be jobs replaced. But walking around the exhibit hall here today, there's a company here that has a industrial robotic lawnmower that can mow parks and large acreage, and so it's just part of the world we live in today, correct?
Correct. For me, we can do more good work than only humans can do. So we can take care of each other better. We can build better relationships. We can solve bigger problems that, let's let AI take care of some of this, just go read the data and let's really focus and be innovative and creative in a way only humans can be. And so, yes, it is changing and things are scary, but we maybe there's some health problems that we haven't been able to solve that AI can help us because it just expands that talent and capacity. But again, it gives us the freedom to reimagine what would we do with 5 extra hours of our week. is that spending more time with family? Is that going out and solving a problem that only humans can do? Is that taking care of somebody and building a better relationship? And that's where I have to focus on things, especially coming from it as encouraging good work and the good work that communities are doing. There's a lot of fear, but it's coming, and so how do we find the good in it?
Kathryn, for that listener out there that maybe is in a very rural community and AI is certainly interesting to them, what would be your advice on sort of the baby steps to get started and maybe then to move forward in this world?
So ChatGPT is the one I just recommend to start to play with. And what I recommend to do is start with a problem. So whether this is a personal problem or a business problem, look at anything you're doing repetitive. So if it's a family that's doing meal planning, say I want to plan this week's meals and my kids like this, and this, and here's what's in my fridge, and you'll be shocked at how it can help you put together a menu really easily. I plan all of my trips now on AI, so if I'm going to a new city, then I want to know what's there, and so I will say, tell me what there is to do in this town. And so there's just any kind of research you're doing, any kind of if you're looking to research, if you're looking to create, if you're looking to do some, data analysis, I would just pick a tool. ChatGPT is the one that we hear most about, and it's really kind of set the standard. There's some other great ones, but that's the one I typically tell people to use. It sounds really techy, but it's not. It is very, very easy to use. Anyone can use it. Once you get going, I do recommend a paid account. It's $20 a month, but it has a lot more features that you can use. But the best thing you can do is to get started. Try something, try a problem. You either start with a use case of something you do all the time, repetitive. So if you're writing a proposal and you want to improve that proposal, then put that proposal into ChatGPT and ask it how it can improve it. Or look at a problem that you're trying to solve and then just interact with it like it's an assistant or an intern. Give it as much data as you want and then just start to see how it reacts.
And if somebody wanted to get in touch with Good Circle Marketing, let me ask you this. If somebody's out there and they're not located in this general area of Tennessee, can you help them online? Are there things you can do? Tell the folks about it.
So we are, one of the biggest things is we need to train people how to use AI. So we're doing AI trainings. We also do a free email newsletter that comes out every Tuesday that gives some tips, both AI and marketing related. I help people all over the country, so would love to engage. Our website is goodcirclemarketing.com. One of our core values is pour out help. So even if it's just a question I can answer, I'd love to help people.
Great. Well, our guest today has been Kathryn Good, and she is the AI expert. And if you've got any questions out there, contact Kathryn. Give them a website again.
goodcirclemarketing.com.
goodcirclemarketing.com. Kathryn, thank you for being on Rural Strong.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome to Rural Strong. This is your host today, Joe Barker, and this is the podcast sponsored by Southwest Tennessee Development District in lovely Jackson, Tennessee. And we've got a real treat today as we're actually doing our podcast from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we're able today to have several of the speakers who are here, several of the local elected officials, and our guest now is Charles Wood, who is the president of the Chattanooga Chamber. Charles, welcome to Rural Strong.
Absolutely great to be here.
Well,
thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about when, I know Chattanooga hosts a lot of conferences, a lot of conventions. How involved is the Chattanooga Chamber, and what are some of the things that you have to do to make sure it's successful?
Sure, and so we don't lead tourism, so we're not as involved with a lot of different conferences. For this one, though, we were pretty engaged in the opening night reception. So we worked with a host of partners and kind of were the lead entity that entered into the contract for the aquarium, where I think we welcomed 500 of our closest friends from around the state. And kind of hosted all that there and raised a little bit of money and got some corporate support around that to kind of help with that. And so depending on what the conference is and what the focus area is, we'll be either very engaged or just lightly engaged. Typically, when it's something that's economic development related, certainly tied to community development work like that, then we tend to be
Great.
more involved.
Well, Chattanooga is a beautiful city. In fact, several years ago, I started my college journey at UT Chattanooga, and so
Awesome.
there's a warm place in my heart for Chattanooga. All right, let's talk about the Chattanooga Chamber. Tell us a little bit about your organization, your structure, and the communities you serve.
Yeah, there's a line in the chamber business where if you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber. And so we're pretty unique. We actually run two separate organizations. One is a 501c6, which is really membership oriented and events and networking and things like that and public policy. And then the other is our foundation, which is a 501c3. And that is focused almost exclusively around economic development, entrepreneurship, and education. And so for us, that's where a bulk of our activity lives. We have about 40 employees total on the team. About 10 of those are focused on education. So really big focus on public education through a program called Chattanooga 2.0. And then another 10 roughly are on the economic development side. We run a small business incubator with 30 to 50 companies in it at any one time. They're startups. And then we, of course, do kind of new business recruitment and marketing. And what's a little unique for us is we cover 16 counties for our economic development work and marketing. And that includes 2 in northeast Alabama, 5 in northwest Georgia, and then 9 in southeast Tennessee. And so we're actively out trying to recruit new companies, new investment into that region. And it's been really exciting to kind of work with not just, of course, Chattanooga is the bigger market in the community, but we provided support with folks in Cleveland, folks in Dalton, Georgia, folks in Dayton, Tennessee. So it's really kind of interesting to get to work with a lot of different size communities.
We're speaking right now with Charles Wood, president of the Chattanooga Chamber. And if you hear a little noise in the background, we're coming to you from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in Charles' hometown of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So you're truly a regional chamber, and of course Chattanooga is a metropolitan area, but you've got a lot of rural counties you work with.
We do, and some of those are very focused on economic development, and so we tend to work more aggressively and more actively with those. Certainly Bradley County and City of Cleveland, very aggressive. Dayton, Tennessee, and Ray County in Tennessee, also pretty aggressive, whereas others that are like Polk County, which is kind of known for whitewater, right? So great rafting there, but not really kind of heavily focused around economic development. And so it just depends on the community and the size. But we've had some success supporting a couple of big projects in the region in those smaller communities.
And I know these smaller communities have their own individual chambers of commerce. So how does that dynamic work between the Chattanooga Chamber and that local chamber?
Sure. So some are actually investors. They fund our regional work. So they are just like we have private industry that invests in us to kind of help us with economic development. We have a couple of those. So like the Cleveland Chamber of Tennessee is an active investor in our economic development work. So it's a very close and good working relationship. Others that are maybe smaller, not as engaged in economic development, we won't have as much connectivity to.
Chambers are proponents for business, and what are some of the challenges you see right now for local business?
Sure. I think, just from a couple big challenges that are out there. The first that, we've got some concern around is there seems to be a growing anti-growth push. And so we're seeing more and more places, some of them very rural, where they don't want development and they don't want new houses built. And the challenge for that is really, if you think about how we create opportunity for our kids and our grandkids, you can't create opportunity without growth. And so I think that our kind of the local chamber industry, whether it's small communities or bigger communities, and local government, we're at the Tennessee Municipal League event, they're struggling mightily with this kind of pushback around growth. And so I think as we start to work with other communities, we really are starting to talk about opportunity and what does that mean for not just for the folks who live there today, who may not need a job because they may be retired or who are just trying to raise young kids, but how do we create opportunity for those kids later in life, right? How do we make sure that our downtowns are thriving, and that doesn't matter if it's South Pittsburgh or it's Chattanooga. The reality is we need our small towns to be thriving, and so that means growth. That means investment.
Charles, how have you seen technology change the landscape of not only how a chamber works, but how you interact with your members?
Sure. I'm not that old, but I'm also not that young, right? So I remember when I was in graduate school, we were convincing small communities why they needed a website. And then today, it's how do you leverage artificial intelligence, right? Because the world is going to change how we operate. And it doesn't matter what size city you're in, what size community you're in. AI is going to have a massive impact on how we work, how we consume information, how we create information, how decisions get made. And so we're spending a lot of time right now trying to educate our chamber members, educate our local government officials around how to leverage artificial intelligence so they don't get run over.
So how does the Chattanooga Chamber leverage artificial intelligence?
Sure. So we use it for a couple different things, whether that's kind of generating content. So if you think about our marketing content and information, social media, how we're generating PowerPoint presentations, how we're taking in minutes from our meetings. So we're leveraging pretty extensively. We use Microsoft, and so we're leveraging their Copilot program. But that's a really important kind of part of our work is how do we better do that? And then I think we'll start to see us using it in how we target industry, right? So how do we identify companies that might be a good fit for Chattanooga, and then start to identify who the folks are in those companies that we can start talking to.
Once again, we're at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference in Chattanooga. We're actually recording this podcast in the exhibit hall, so a lot of folks milling around, and it's a great conference. It is every year, and they've come to Chattanooga this year. Talk a little bit, Charles, about a chamber that represents business interests, working with government, and sometimes business interests and government collide. So how do you work that maze?
Sure. In a perfect world, the collisions are minimal, right? And so, for us, it's really about relationships and making sure that we've developed a pretty significant amount of trust. So that means I drink a lot of coffee with a lot of different people, right? And that's one of the ways you build trust. And so that when you have kind of those collisions, there's an opportunity for whoever you're in that kind of contentious discussion with to still trust you and know that there might be disagreement, and know that there might be different needs that need to be met. But that is first and foremost the most important thing is you got to build that trust on the front end. And if you haven't done it, you got to invest the time.
It's highly important, and we all know that communities thrive when people work together. They don't always have to agree, but they've got to be moving in the same direction. It's interesting to me that you serve communities in states outside of Tennessee. I'm sure that they have laws that are different than Tennessee laws. What are some of the challenges in doing that?
Sure. We let the local economic development and local chambers play the lead role at kind of the local level. So for us, our activity is really around how do we market the region as a whole. And so just, using Dayton as an example, when we worked pretty hard in supporting the recruitment of a tire company there called Nokian Tire. And we sold the region, but the local team there really sold Dayton, Tennessee, and the site and the real estate there. So that collaborative approach is pretty important. Working across state lines, the first thing folks have to remember is people and money don't stop at the state line, right? The reality is that from an economic standpoint, we need the counties around us, doesn't matter which state they're in, to be really strong so that we can benefit each other. And so, yes, there's some laws that are different. There are different players that are involved, but the reality is that their success is our success, and we've got to make sure that they understand that's how we're thinking about it, and that we're kind of coaching them on the fact that we want them to be successful, that this isn't a zero-sum game.
You're right, because when companies, they don't look at state line most of the time. They don't look at county lines most of the time, and in my years of working in economic development, I found out one of the most difficult things is getting folks to realize that industrial prospect may locate in another county, but it has definite benefit to the whole region.
That's right. Yeah, it's the money doesn't stop at the county line, and neither do employees, right? And so the opportunity is still created if it happens
All
next
right,
door.
let's talk a little bit about challenges. When you look into your crystal ball for the future, what are some of the greatest challenges you see out there?
I think there's a few things. I mean, if you work in the Chamber of Commerce business, you're in the optimism business. But I do think trust is a concern. I think there seems to be a growing kind of distrust, particularly between rural and urban, when many of the problems they're facing are the same. So I think that to me, making sure there's really open dialogue and that's constantly happening is really important around trust. I think, the second is to make sure that communities understand economics a little better, particularly community leaders, mayors, city council members, understanding kind of how dollars flow into a community. If you think about new companies that come into your community that sell something somewhere else, they bring new money in, and understanding the importance of that to your local economy is critical. And I think we've got a lot of local officials that are relatively new. We've seen a lot of change out here in Chattanooga and in the region. And so I think making sure that my hope is they're putting as much effort once they've been elected into learning and understanding the role really well as they did in running to get elected. And so I think, as you think about kind of changing gears almost, right? For those folks who used to know how to drive a manual transmission, you got to change gears when you get elected and start to really think about how you execute and not just kind of that you're running for office on a constant basis. So I think that's really important, particularly at the local level. And the last is, we're in a world that kind of globally is getting more and more uncomfortable with kind of international dynamics. And for Tennessee in particular, that's a challenge, right? We've seen massive foreign direct investment by companies based out of Japan, based out of Germany, and a host of other countries. And so we've got to make sure we keep the doors open to that. And so there are small things that can matter a lot to an international company when they visit a community, when they visit Tennessee. And so I think if we're thinking about the impact those companies can have on our communities, we've got to make sure we're a welcoming place for that. And that's a challenging thing to do right now in a time where certainly the U.S. is probably more closer involved in wars than we've ever been, if you think about what's happening in the Ukraine and Russia. And so I think that international aspect of how we look at our neighbors, right, that are from other countries, and how we're able to welcome their employees and their investment into our communities, because it matters, right? They employ lots of Tennesseans, and that they give them good jobs with great wages that support their families. And so I think working through what can be a really complicated global thing at a local level to be supportive of those international businesses is going to be really
I know the Chattanooga Chamber does a great job. In the couple of minutes we've got left, speaking of challenges, when I talk to people really not only in Tennessee but across the Southeast, housing, particularly affordable housing, because, Chattanooga has experienced tremendous growth. Tell our listeners out there, sort of where the Chattanooga area is today and what trends do you see?
Sure. Like everyone else, we've struggled with a lack of kind of workforce housing, right? So this isn't what people think of as public housing. This is where does a nurse live, right? Where does a truck driver live? Where does a firefighter live? And so we've been pretty aggressive at the local level with the city of Chattanooga around affordable housing and around development. And so the reality is you got to build more, and we're in a tough time to have that conversation, but the way to kind of stabilize prices and kind of keep them as contained as possible is you got to build a lot of them. It's supply and demand. And the reality is if you don't build many houses, then there's less opportunity to be in new houses, and those prices continue to go up and up and up. And that's what we've seen in California, right? They're so restrictive on development in California that they've made it harder and harder to rezone property and build new development and new housing, that it's caused their housing prices to be completely out of whack with the rest of the world. And so we've got to make sure it's easy to build. We've got to remove barriers to that. And that is happening at a time when we're having more and more people who really don't want houses built next to them. And so this is the conflict that we're starting to see across Tennessee. And it's going to be interesting to see, in part because there's pressure for less density and to go to 1 or 2 houses per acre. But the challenge with that will be we're going to chew up a lot more farmland if we have less density, right? And so for those folks out there that want to preserve farmland, if you start to say, well, we're going to build 100 homes, but we're not going to build 100 homes on 25 acres now, we're going to build 100 homes on 50 acres, we've just eaten up twice the farmland twice as fast. So and that's a math problem, and it's a really uncomfortable conversation for a lot of folks. But if we want to make sure we've got opportunity and we've got housing for our kids, if we don't want them to all live in our basements, we've got to make sure we've got more housing that gets built. And so Chattanooga's done a great job. Mayor Tim Kelly here has pushed really hard on it. Senator Todd Gardenhire, who covers a pretty rural area, passed some legislation, I think the year before last, that provided some incentives around density and housing development in cities. And so we've got some good things going in Chattanooga, but this is a problem that's not just, at our county level or state level, but really it's a national challenge.
I know we've got listeners that may never have been to Chattanooga before, and I want to tell you it is a beautiful area. So before you leave, Charles, if somebody wants to go online and find out some information about Chattanooga, where can they go?
Sure. So if they want to visit as a tourist, visit Chattanooga.com is the place to go, and they'll hear all the great things going on. And if they want to learn a little bit more about the business community and the region, I'd encourage them to visit greaterchat.com.
All right. Charles Wood has been our guest today on Rural Strong from the Tennessee Municipal League Conference. Thank you, Charles.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Rural Strong. If you found this helpful, share it and follow the show for more insights from rural leaders making a real difference. Until next time, stay rural strong.